What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Strive Tribe podcast. It's your boy Devin, and today we actually got a special guest. We got Ryan Healy, who is my little cousin, not so little, but little cousin. 2 weeks younger than me, but definitely a lot taller than me. And Ryan has, done a lot in his life so far, from minor leagues to professional MLB to going into the Korean Professional Baseball League, and now he's actually taken the entrepreneurial route and joined me on this career path. And it's definitely a different switch. And the reason I wanted to bring him on today is because, as you guys know, mindset is a huge part of it, from your fitness to your careers to your relationships. And knowing Ryan and me and him being so close over the years, I've watched him transform from not only just an athlete and to an amazing father, but I've watched his mindset shift in different aspects of all those fields. So, Ryan, if you want to give a little bit of background of, your baseball and, everything like that, and then we'll dive into some Mindset Cafe today.
I love it. And the mindset stuff, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here. Happy we got to do this. I think you and I have spent a lot of time talking business for a lot of years, all of our late night gym sessions. You've always been so creative with your thought processes, and I've always envied that. And I think we've talked a lot more since I stopped playing about our things in common that we view in the business world. But for me personally, I played baseball my whole life. I mean, from the time I was 3-4 years old until I was 30. And it was definitely an identity crisis that I had when I stopped playing. And the thing that really carried me through was my daughter, Colette. I mean, having the father identity kind of be thrusted upon me gave me a purpose that allowed me to transition from baseball to professional work life. I don't want to say seamless, because there's definitely road bumps that I constantly face. But for me, I just have so much gratefulness that I have towards the game of baseball and the things that it taught me and the mindsets that it gave me and the time management and the structuring of my day-to-day life. And there's always things you can improve on, but I've been very grateful for the discipline that baseball taught me that has been able to translate into anything that I do post-baseball.
No, that's awesome. I mean, during your baseball, did you guys have anything like on your teams and stuff like that you guys worked on, like mindset or anything, like, sport performance things, in that nature?
Yeah, I was fortunate. I didn't do much in high school. I think in high school, it's more so just raw talent and competitiveness of working with your buddies, playing with your teammates, finding a way to just win. And then getting into college, you start to see that the competition level rises a ton. And you're no longer the best player on the field just by showing up. You have to find a way to separate yourself. And we had the luxury of, at University of Oregon, where I played for 3 years, our head coach had a mindset coach. His name was Ken Ravizza, who recently passed. He was phenomenal. And he gave me a lot of cues that I've used in my post-baseball life of controlling the controllables, being present in that moment, understanding the difference between something that I can and can't change or fix, and just allowing me to tighten my focus up on what I can actually accomplish and just kind of chip away, stack some wins. But college is when I really dove into that,
No, I mean,
and then
that's
way more on the
awesome.
pro side.
Like, for no, I mean, that's awesome. And like, so, but was it more of just like a mindset like coach, or was there, I know you mentioned like cues, but for those that don't know what cues are, like what kind of cues, or sports like psychology cues or mindset cues did you start to use?
They talk about the percentage of what the voice your brain and your mind hears the most, and it's yours. I mean, it's the way that you talk to yourself, it's the way that you communicate with yourself. And I was always very hard on myself when I was playing, and when failure happened, I would sometimes sear to that skid. And what he taught me was, how can I stop myself from skidding in that moment to recapture my focus? And we had little minor cues, especially I'll keep it baseball specific. Like for me, I always had a focal point. Whenever I'd go to a new stadium or for our home stadium, I always knew what part of the field I was going to look at if my mind was shifting or spinning out of control. And it was always like the top of the right field foul pole, because every stadium had that. So no matter where I went, I knew that I had that controllable, and it gave me a moment to take a couple breaths, be in that moment, be in my two shoes at that point, and just be able to take the next step, the next course of action to be able to get me the result that I wanted. And really not obsess over the result, but obsess over the process. So the way that I would walk to the plate, the way that I would have my pre-pitch routine, the way that I would breathe and control my breath in that moment, A lot of those little cues that we've talked about, that's what really helped me get me through the stressful moments.
That's awesome, and that is huge because it's one of those things where even going from like baseball and even into like your now entrepreneurial career, it's one of those things where as long as you can find that cue or that focal point on what is controllable or what is going to be the same in every situation, or whether it's your business meeting routine, like if you can keep that constant, you can control to a degree how your actions are performed moving forward. So I mean that is huge, and that's something that not everyone really knows. But I mean, coming from a sports background, you were lucky enough, and even for myself in like the martial arts and fighting and stuff, knowing that it does help translate into our lives with becoming entrepreneurs and stuff. So that's awesome. How, for those that have always dreamed of being, let's say, in the MLB, like what's that like?
It's such a different perspective for me now, being kind of after the fact. It honestly feels like a movie. Like when I go back and I still have some of my best friends in the world that are playing at the highest level, and I'll go to the games, I'll travel and see them. I've been able to incorporate some business with pleasure of traveling to these out of state locations to see them, and it does feel like a movie. When I think back on the day to day life of it, it was so normal because that's just what we knew. And now the way that you look at it from the outside looking in, my perspective has shifted a ton, and I have so much respect for the guys that are still doing it, and I have so much joy in my heart for being able to accomplish that, because it's given me a lot of confidence in my post baseball career to understand that when I put my mind to something and I do the right things for long enough, that you will get rewarded at some point. It may not be right here, right now, but if you have conviction and confidence in your process and you have repeatable steps that you can take, you know that the results will follow.
No, definitely. And I mean, knowing you over the years, like it's one of those things where you had that goal since we were kids, and your actions and your determination towards it, like, definitely set you on that path. I mean, it was baseball first, then everything else second. And that's how, if you really want to get to something and really want to achieve something, sometimes that's almost like the route that you need to take and the seriousness that you need to have to be able to accomplish that. Now, with going into a little more of the mindset part of it, with you now being retired from the MLB and stuff, and having baseball such a part of your identity, how was that shift from going like I am a baseball player to and a dad to now I'm a dad and an entrepreneur, and how was that shift of identity for you?
It's a great question, Dev. And for me, I actually worked with a mindset coach. One of my best friends, Brett, actually introduced me to a gentleman. We call him Mac, and he specialized in the business world, where he helped professionals transition from one job to the next, whether it was a playing career, athletic career, or just one business transition to another. He helped me a lot, shaping my perspective on what I wanted to be. And he really helped me filter through my thoughts, as I had so many coming at one time. He helped me filter through my thoughts of what was important. And he helped me, I don't want to say find my identity again, but essentially figure out what my new identity was going to be, because baseball defined everything that I did. And
Right.
this is something that you said, is every decision that I made on a daily basis was to better my baseball career. And family was always a top priority for me. But I can tell you firsthand that baseball took priority over family numerous times. Am I proud of that? Not necessarily, because I love my family more than life itself, but I understood that I had to make sacrifices, because the place that I wanted to get was something that people around me haven't been to. So I knew, I mean, for me, the mindset I live by is, if you want to do something that other people haven't done, if you want to get to a place that other people have never been, you got to do what people are unwilling to do. And that's what I was willing to do for my entire career. So from my eating schedule to my workout routine to my sleeping schedule to my recovery to my practice routine and my schedule, it was all down to a T. And that organization, that structure, and that discipline has really helped me transition into my post baseball life. I just have a lot more moving parts now. I've learned to multitask, whereas my only obligation was baseball before. So my focus was always centered on that.
Right. And I mean, going into that too, it's one of those things where, not saying that you didn't prioritize your family, like sometimes you have to be selfish to be selfless. So like, yes, baseball did come over everything, but it came over everything so that you could provide the life that you want for your family, and provide a life that a lot of families never see. and honestly, that's the same as you've seen with, myself and like my entrepreneurial path. It's one of those things where like you have to put in that work, whether you want to or not. Cause I mean, even you being, a dad too, it's like, it's not that you don't want to spend time like every moment with, with your daughter, just like I don't, would with my daughter, but you have to make those sacrifices so that you can give them the things that you want. So sometimes it might seem like to others that you're putting that before them, when in reality, you're doing that for them,
Mm-hmm.
so that's the hard thing. But at the same time, you have to be, like I said, you have to be selfish sometimes so that you can be selfless. Because if you're only selfless, then that truly is actually selfish, because now you're not giving them the opportunities and them the things that they could have had if you would have just sucked it up and did the work that you knew you needed to do, so
Yeah, and I think
that's
that's still a conversation that we have to this point. Even my wife and I, Courtney, a ton is understanding where we're going. Because for me, what I tell people is I know exactly where I'm going. I'm just not positive how I'm getting there yet. I'm gonna have to figure it out. Just like in baseball, I knew at some point I would get to the major leagues. I didn't know how. I didn't know what my path looked like. And same thing right now with my entrepreneurial journey. I know exactly where I'm going. I'm just figuring out how to get there by solving a new problem every day and learning something new that I can apply in the future.
No, definitely. And I mean, that's all life is, whether it's, going from the minor leagues to the major leagues, or going from, trying to start a business, or, trying to grow your business. It's a step-by-step process. And like, where you want to go. And if you only focus on all the work that needs to be done to get there, you're going to focus on so many things that overwhelm you. And then you're going to be overloaded. And then you're going to underload the amount of work you do, because you're so stressed out about all these things that you need to do or could do. Or it's like, dude, just take it one step at a time. Like, and if you know the next step you should take that, and then figure out the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a step-by-step
Mm-hmm.
process, just like baseball, just like training and everything like that.
Something a lot of people understand too is the short term sacrifice for long term gains. So many
Right.
people want what they want and they want it right now, or they don't even know what they want and they don't know the reason why they're doing it. I know you and I have always talked about this and the reason why. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I struggling like this? What's the purpose of me going through this? And for me, on a constantly daily basis, I'm saying I'm making this short term sacrifice because I'm going to make the long term gain eventually, because I know if I do make these short term sacrifices enough, they're going to stack up. They're going to stack my wins, and eventually I'm going to get to reap the benefits of it.
No, definitely. And it's a whole. I know it's one of those things where you'll hear it a lot, especially in the entrepreneurial space, is, delayed gratification and stuff. And it's like, it's true, right? If you're only focused on getting things now and receiving now and benefiting right now, you're really short. You're going to have a shortcoming of what you could have had if you would have just put more work in and not focused on what can benefit you right this second. And it's one of
Mm-hmm.
those things, even with baseball, like, you're putting in so much work now, not because you want to win this game, but because you want to have a successful career and, keep leveling up. So you're not focusing on the immediate win of that next game. You're focusing on, let's say, the championship, or, having that next contract signed, or whatever the case may be. Same thing with business. Like, if you're focusing on every single deal, like, is this going to benefit me today? It's like, well, maybe not today, but by doing this, it allows me to open this door and this door, and so forth. And that's where I'm really trying to get to go. So it's one of those things where you have to be able to put off gratification in some form or another, so that you can actually reap the benefits of it. And, that time you can take a financial or an emotional, or even a, success draw or a win from it. It's a lot bigger than taking all these little mini wins, throughout. And it's almost like one of like my mentors, says, it's like putting a log on the fire, right? So you have a fire, you have a campfire going, and if that campfire is bright and everything's going right now, and if you wait until that fire starts to go out before you go to look for another log, now you have to get all cold and everything, and then try to build your fire back up, versus, adding another fire log on the fire as it's still blazing, so that fire never starts to go out, right? It's one of those things where you sometimes have to put yourself in tough situations and force yourself to do hard things, even when it's not necessary, so that you can keep
Mm-hmm.
your motivation and keep your, journey going on an upward trajectory of, success.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things, and that's huge that you're doing it right now too. So I mean, I have to commend you for that, because it's definitely one of those things where going from a professional baseball player and switching from I'm not a baseball player anymore is huge, and it can be an emotional and depressing state for a lot of people. But you've been able to, battle that and now overcome it. So now you're excelling in, your quote unquote new identity, which is amazing, and it's amazing to watch. And we've talked about it before. I think our first talk of it before you actually left baseball completely was, when you and I were talking, and you were asking about like your decision to either go KBO or stay in the MLB. And I was like, look, like realistically, this isn't going to be a job you're here forever. I understand
Mm-hmm.
like why you want to stay in the MLB, and you're doing it because of the I'm a MLB player and that's your identity. But right now, which one is going to benefit you, right? Are you doing this for financial, or are you doing this because it's an ego thing? And then when we had that talk, you're like, oh damn, like I didn't really think about it that way, and I was like, dude, this is not like a forever game. Like you got to realize you got to take that step that's going to excel you into your next step. So it's definitely seeing that switch from, and you being able to take that switch is awesome. And honestly, I give you kudos for that. So
One of my favorite sayings that the mindset coach in college gave us was learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think for me, I've always made decisions that make a lot of people uncomfortable. I've always been a little bit against the grain just because of my perspective and my experiences in this world. And I think just the belief in myself that allows me the opportunity to take the unconventional route. And I'm definitely doing that right now. And I didn't realize that I did that when I was playing baseball because it just felt so normal. It was my norm. And when I got on the outside looking back in, I started to realize how uncomfortable we were at most of our career and not understanding where my next paycheck might be coming from, but just doing enough of the right things that I believed. And yeah, I remember the conversation before I was signing the KBO because I had a lot of opinions that were voicing to me what I should or shouldn't do. And I had to eventually make the decision that was best for my family for the short term and the long term. And it ended up being a wonderful experience. And it was able to set our family up financially for the next couple of years that allowed this transition of entrepreneurship where I wasn't pressed to go get a W-2 job and I needed a paycheck every 2 weeks. So it allowed me to have some more freedom to really follow my passions and dreams that I didn't know existed while I was playing.
that's awesome. And honestly, I'm glad that you were able to set yourself up that way, and everything. What are you? I mean, I know we've talked about it now, but like, what have you done in your transition? Like, what are you currently doing in that entrepreneurial space?
I consider myself a serial entrepreneur at this point and a real estate investor. I think I was able to make the decisions based off of passions that most people don't have the opportunity to. Baseball's always been a passion of mine, so I knew that I was going to want to do something within that space, and I knew that I wanted to monetize it because I have a family to provide for. But I wanted to be something that I love doing. So I actually had a business idea where I could combine my two passions of baseball and real estate, where now I'm able to take care of Major League Baseball players' homes that live in Arizona. I can take care of those properties while they're gone for the season. I came up with a business idea. I had a couple friends that I kind of test ran it on last summer, and I liked it. It was minimal hours. I was working a month for a pretty good return on my time, and I was able to help people that didn't understand that they were even having that problem. And I can't tell you how many water leaks that I've had, how many air conditioning units that have gone out that these clients would have come home to at the end of the baseball season and dealt with, that I've been able to help solve their problems for them before they even realized they were problems. So I grow that business. I do that a lot. I have a handful of clients now, and that will grow over the next few years. And then I do hitting lessons on the side. So the company that I have is Show Service, and it has two branches of income off of that I do, which I love. I have my real estate license in Arizona, and I'm a real estate investor all across the country. So I do those two things, and I do coaching for real estate investing as well. I joined a mentorship fresh off of playing, and I loved the mentor so much that I ended up staying on as a coach. And I've been able to actually grow some of my business skills on the marketing and sales side. He's given me opportunities to implement some things. I don't know anything about business. I'll tell you that flat out. And he knows that. But he's given me opportunities to work with him and work for him because he knows my work ethic and he knows my mindset and he knows that I pick things up really quickly. And I've been able to do that. So I do some sales for him now of helping to onboard new students. I do a lot of coaching with students that are in the program to help them learn how to invest in real estate properly. But for me, it was really just how do I figure out what my passions are? And then how do I figure out how to monetize those? So it's definitely a little bit of a sloppy formula right now, working about 6 jobs at once, but I love the challenge of it on a daily basis because I get to continuously change the hat that I'm wearing. I'll go from a phone call where I'm talking to a hitting lesson client, and then all of a sudden I'll pick up the phone, I'll talk to a realtor, or I'll call a contractor that's working on my properties in Alabama. There's so many different people that I talk to on a daily basis. It's hard to keep track of, but I love the challenge and I love the diversity, to be able to blend my two passions of real estate and baseball together.
No, that's awesome. And yeah, welcome to the life of entrepreneurship.
Woo!
You know, going into that and like how many things you do have going on, and with your fitness being so tied to, let's say, baseball, right? You know, you had to work out because it was going to help you in your career. Like, it wasn't like, oh man, I want to work out. Like, you worked out for your performance. How have you been with your workout routines? Basically, let's say right after baseball, and how is that? Have you continued to work out now, or has it improved now? Like, how's that all going?
That's a great question because I knew the fitness conversation would come up, and I have such a unique perspective and situation on it. And it's definitely something that I challenge, it challenges me now trying to make time for it. And I battle, I go through ebbs and flows. But it's so funny because I listen to your podcast a lot. And I've listened to a lot of your people that come on here and the successful businessmen and the people that are just working on their fitness. And it seems like when they figured their fitness out, the business followed. I feel
Right,
like I have a little bit different perspective on that because when I was playing baseball, it was non-negotiable. And
right,
it should be non-negotiable in general, but at this point where I'm at, when I was playing, if I didn't work out or if I didn't do something, somebody else would. And somebody else was gunning for my job and they'd be sitting there gladly waiting to take it. So there wasn't a negotiation no matter how tired I was or if I was traveling. I remember my honeymoon, we went to Tulum, Mexico, and I just got done with the hip surgery. And every single day I did at least 3 to 4 hours of rehab while I was there to make sure that I was prime when I came home. Like, how many guys go on their
right,
honeymoon and they're working on their fitness or making sure that their body's functioning? Like, that was just my mindset. That was my life. So when I stopped playing, I didn't have all the jobs going that I do right now. So I had a lot more free time. So I needed the gym to keep my sanity. As I got busier with work, the workouts started to kind of become an afterthought. And I got a Peloton in the office here, so I can always ride that to clear my head. But it's been such a lower on the totem pole priority for me because I have so many other things going on. And more importantly, I wanted to be a father. And
right,
I've gotten to the point now where I'm saying I don't need to work out 5, 6 days a week, but I need to work out too. And I need to have some quick 20-minute resets that I can do to move my body, whether it's a stretching routine, it's a core workout, it's a 20-minute bike ride on the Peloton to reset my head because that's where I'll get a little cloudy. The
right,
stress will kind of pile up and then it'll weigh me down. And the only way that I can get out of that is by going to the workout or going to the fitness because I need to remind myself that I can do hard things and I can do enough in that process to clear my head. And then I get off the bike and usually I'm reset. So it's nice to have cues like that where it doesn't need to be. I mean, Dev, I used to spend 4 hours in the gym. Like it was 2 hours of working out, it was 2 hours of hitting, and then I'd go take a break and then I'd go take 2 hours of ground balls. Like I was literally working out for 6 hours, 8 hours a day. It was a full-time job in the off season. So now I know that it's not life or death for me. So I put different things a priority. I put my money making opportunities as my priority because that's what I need to live. But as I progress, I'd love to get an in-home gym. I'd love to have some more resources in-house that I really don't have the excuse. But I haven't really talked to you about this, but I actually found a facility around here that Courtney was going to that's similar to your business model. It's a little bit different with the timing, but it's an hour long workout. It's almost like an F45. They call it Team 44 here. And I go at 6 a.m. and I work out for an hour straight and they write the workouts for me and it crushes me and it gets my mind right and I love it. So I do that at least twice a week to keep my body moving. And then I
right.
can kind of plug and play some different workouts here and there.
No, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, I mean, the like with a schedule like yours, like the reason why we created our model, you know, a little bit differently, like some of our workouts, you can come in, you can do a 30-minute version or you can do a 75-minute version, and it's all up to you and your schedule for the day, right? It's it was created because of everyone's excuses and everyone's, you know, reasons of why they can't get a workout in. So it's one of those things where though, like knowing the mindset that you went from like it was your job to work out before, and now your job is to, you know, essentially grow your entrepreneurial like path. Just also realize that like it's not that you working out is going to make your business grow, but the result from you working out, like I would try to at least do 3 days. And even if one of those days is a Peloton, like that's fine. But like it's one of those things where you got to realize your hormonal balance, your emotional balance, your stress levels, especially when you have so many things juggling as you do, those things start to balance out. And you got to realize the better you feel, the better you do. And that is a huge thing, especially, I mean, for myself right now, like got the podcast, got the gym, got the, the CRM company, got the franchise company. Like, believe me, like I'm the same way. It's one of those things where I don't always get to work out every single day, but I make it like a mission to at least work out, 4 or 5 days. And some of those times it is because I'm already in the gym. But it's one of those things where I noticed when I was, super stressed out and only doing like, 1 or 2 days a week, everything else just seemed more stressful. And my emotions or my stresses just seemed a lot more impactful in my decision making. And at the end of the day, like your brain activity actually increases from workouts. So just realize, I mean, I would definitely, and it's one of those things too. Like I know when I was doing martial arts and that was my job and I was worked out every day, and then all of a sudden you get to relax because it's not your job anymore. You're going through that like wave two of like, now I don't have to do it, so I'm not going to do it every single day. But just realize that like your opportunities and your growth will always be there too, because you have that mindset of making it happen. And doing a 30-minute Peloton or a 20-minute Peloton, before you start work, or waking up 20 minutes earlier to do that real quick, isn't going to be a make or break in your day, but it will be a make or break in maybe some of the emotions and decisions that you make from that day.
That's a great point because I have the stress and I have the anxiety that'll pile up because there'll be days where I'll have 4 out of the 6 businesses that all of a sudden have problems that need to be solved. And I am the guy that has to solve them all.
Right.
And I'm solving other people's problems for them. And you know how draining that can be. And if I'm not spending time with some of my self care and my self maintenance with filling my own bucket of the exercise or the things that I know that I physically, mentally need, I have like this crippling anxiety that'll just freeze me in the day. And my wife
Exactly.
struggles with it as well. And we talk about it a lot. And hers is always fitness. And so is mine. Whether it's an hour and a half long workout or a 20-minute bike ride, it clears my head so quickly. So you're 100% right. I try to do at least 3 to 4 days a week, 2 of those being Pelotons and like a core workout, and then 2 being physically in the gym. But it's funny, I've done every exercise that you could possibly dream up, Deb, whether it was with you or with another trainer, but I cannot write a workout worth a damn. And I don't know why, but I was working out at the gym that I do lessons at, and I would go there and they have all the weights that you need. But I can't formulate it because I had this mental block. I was always a robot in the gym. There was always told that there's 2 types of losers. There's the ones that do what they're told, and the ones that don't do what they're told. And I was always the guy that did what they were told, and then I'd do some more. So you give me a workout in writing, you're a trainer, you tell me what to do, great. I'm gonna do all this, and then what? Guess what? I'm gonna do a little extra because that's just what I have in me. It's a competition at that point. But when I'm writing my own
Right.
workouts, I lack the skills and the organization of how to function a plan to be able to execute it. So that's why going to the facility like yours, it removes the thought of what am I doing today? And I just do it. Whereas when I was
Right.
playing baseball, all my workouts were pertaining to how am I getting better? How am I rotating harder? How can I hit the ball harder? How can I still stay healthier longer? How can I improve my flexibility? Whatever it was. Now it's
Right.
just like, how do I just stay strong and how do I clear my head? And it's such a simple mindset now for the exercise, but it's definitely had to become more of a priority because I felt the stress piling up and the hormonal imbalance is 100% correct. And you're dead on there. And that's why I've had to get more regimented with holding myself accountable to at least going to a facility twice a week. And then I know I can get 2 done here.
And that's awesome. And it's one of those things where even like you have the Peloton, they have the little classes and stuff on there too. So it's one of those things where you have someone telling you what to do. And I mean, yeah, I mean, realize that being able to write your own workouts or effectively write your own workouts isn't a skill that necessarily everyone needs, right? And that's why there are trainers, and that's why there are gyms and programs like the one you're going to, or like Strive, right? And even for us, like I realize that, because that is a huge thing. Like for me, it's almost common sense, but also like a lot of baseball things for you are just common sense, right? And it's
It's
not
second nature.
right. So it's one of those things, like even for us, for our franchisees, what we actually did is realize that, and even for our franchisees, all the locations are going to have the same workout, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I realized that, and it's like, dang, like even if you want to own your own gym, or whether you want to go to a gym, it shouldn't be that you need to also be an amazing person that writes workouts, that knows how to write effective workouts. I was like, let's just help do that too, and that's one of the things we actually did. So it's a huge thing. And as I'm talking to people and stuff, when I tell them that part, they're like, oh, wait, that's awesome. And I was like, well, yeah, if you go into like a McDonald's or something, or let's say you go into a restaurant, I took like the restaurant approach. And if you go into that restaurant chain, you know what kind of food you're going to get before you get there. So for our gym,
Yeah.
like we're not trying to be like, I just as you referenced them before, F45, where the trainers have to write the workouts, you know, and you don't know which F45 is going to be a good one. Like I want our gym to be, you know, effective wherever it is, right? Because again, it's so important, especially even for like people like you, where it's, you know, a 30-minute is better than nothing, you know, and it's like that 30 minutes matters, especially in a schedule like yours. Like you're not trying to waste 30 minutes of your day, an hour of your day. So you need to make sure you're going somewhere that it's going to be solid workouts. So I mean that's huge, and honestly, I'm glad that you did sign up for something like that, because it's not important to be able to know how to write workouts, but it is important that you are working out and doing something effective for yourself. Now,
It's such a great point. Such a great point.
No, I appreciate it. No, what are you currently doing like now for like mindset stuff? Because I mean, it's one of those things as entrepreneurs, like, you know, aside from working out, aside from, you know, business, just your personal development is always important, and no matter what role and no matter what career you're in. But being an entrepreneur, we have so many things that are going on in our day. Like you said, we're problem solvers, right? And at the end of the day, like, what are you currently doing to continue your self-improvement on a mental side?
I'll say the exercise is definitely one. For me, I've eliminated how much TV I watch and how much music I listen to, and everything is podcasts. And I have a pretty small variety of what I listen to, because I want a lot of it to be pertaining to mindset, to real estate, to sales, to entrepreneurship. For me, the one word that I value a ton is perspective now. I want to understand what the perspective of successful people are that have done business their whole life, because I have a ton of making up to do. And I already have so many tools that I can be able to repurpose, but without the perspective of how to repurpose those, they're just sitting there dormant. So I had to learn how to retool my purpose and what I was good at and apply it to the things that I wanted to do now in the business space. And that's a constant learning process. But honestly, I would say podcasts are the biggest thing that I do, because I'm not a big reader. I would love to become more of a reader, but I can't get over the hurdle. But they do audiobooks, so I'll listen to audiobooks. So I'll usually have an audiobook going at all times based off of a topic that I want to improve at. And then I'll listen to new podcasts constantly. And some of it's just funny stuff that's just different real world opportunities or situations. But a lot of it is real estate investing and entrepreneurship, because I want to hear the mindset and the perspective that these successful individuals have, and how they're able to overcome numerous problems throughout the course of the day.
That's awesome. I mean, that's the same way with me. Like, I don't know if it's from being in the gym, you know, for as many years I've been in the gym and hear music all the time. Like, I remember even when I was going home from the gym, it would either be a podcast, audiobook, or silence. Like, I just didn't want any more music. But I mean, for me, like, you know, I'm the same way. I podcast, audiobooks. I wasn't a big reader until more recently. And it was one of those things where, I mean, even in high school and college, like I honestly didn't really crack books open. Like I just didn't need to.
Never.
But it's one of those things where I've noticed that there's almost a different skill take from it, right? It's now when you're texting people, right? It's not, yes, you're talking, but being able to write and write different styles or write different ways. And like you said, a perspective, right? So when you're reading and you're writing, there's what perspective is your message or your text or your email going to give the other person? Is that the perspective that you're trying to give when you're saying that? Because it's when you're talking to someone, like I can say something, I can read, especially if it's face to face, I can read your body language and be like, dang, that's definitely not the perspective I wanted to give. I can say it a different way. But if you're sending a text message and email, you don't see what's happening on the other end of that. And being more into reading now, like I've been able to try to focus and realize, okay, like, how did I take that paragraph or that line, and how could you reword it to make it sound like this? And like, I don't read a ton, but I try to do, 10-ish pages a day, and it's usually in the morning. So like I don't wake up and start answering emails or anything. I wake up and first thing I do is while the coffee's getting made or whatever, like I just, do 10 pages. That's before Camila and Gabby and everyone get up. So it's 10 pages. And then it's like, okay, now my mind's already going on what I just read. And now I've already set myself up to get into answering emails. My brain's already going. So I don't need to create anything. I'm not having to focus on solving a
Wow.
problem yet. And it's crazy because like just doing that, it almost like it's almost like when you warm up in baseball or you warm up in your workout, right? I felt like because I've tried it different ways, and believe me, like I tried to do the whole, read 10 pages a day, and I was doing it at the end of the day, and honestly, I stopped doing it because I literally would be reading the book, and then I would wake up with my head on page 9 out of 10, like, and it happened where I was literally walking, pacing, trying to just read that last fucking page, and then I was like, dude, like I have to change this. So then I was like, okay, well, when I wake up, I normally just open my phone, go to emails, and I'm reading emails. I was like, why don't I just read the book then? And now it gave me that like warm up. So now the first task I do for the business or first email I answer, my brain already feels that it's on go mode versus like, oh shit, like there's so much to do right now, and it starts off in chaos.
I might need to try that because I've actually struggled with the chaos of waking up in chaos. Because even the days that I wake up at 5:30 in the morning, and I would say that's probably 3 to 4 days out of the week, I'm usually doing lessons until 9:30 at night, and I'll get home and I'm not going to sleep till 12:31. So usually I know that next morning is a wash for me. But I've been able to manipulate my schedule where I can kind of sleep in a little bit. I can wake up at 7 with the baby. I wake up in the chaos, but I can slow my day down. But for the 4 days that I'm my highly productive individual, it's so funny that you mentioned that story of starting to read in the morning because I might need to start doing that because I struggle because being in the West Coast time, I have so many people that are in Central time zone and East Coast time zone that I'm getting their problems where it's noon or it's 10 a.m. there and it's 7 a.m., 8 a.m. here, and my brain is not firing in all cylinders yet. So I'll have conversations with students that are within the mentorship, and I'm not getting my thoughts out clearly because the words aren't coming, or the emails that I'm trying to answer back to my contractors, or the text messages, all the problems that are coming through. I think maybe if I try to pick up a book and just read 10 pages like that before I actually deal with other people's problems, it'll get that vocabulary kind of functioning because my wife always says she has a much higher vocabulary and word count than I do available, but I'm much more articulate with my words, and I don't want to say manipulation, but I'm able to read people just like you said and understand what they need to hear. So what I do personally is I send a lot of voice messages, whether it's a video of me talking or it's just a voice over on the text message. My words come across so much better. I can talk through my thoughts easier there than through a text message. And I'll write a text message and it'll be 4 paragraphs long and it'll be well explained. But I just wrote a short novel. I'm like, what? No one's going to read this, and if they do, they're not going to understand it the way that I want to because my tonality is not there, highlighting the important things. And I learned a
Right.
lot of this through sales and such that your tonality and your speed of talking and the way that you say things really matters. So that's why I
Mhm.
use the voice text a lot and I use the video message a lot because I feel like it removes that ability of the lack of communication or lack of understanding from the recipient on the other end.
Or do you think that you're using that because you know that's your skill and you know you're strong at that and you know you're a little bit weaker at, writing it maybe because you aren't reading, so you're doing it to give yourself that edge versus trying to build up your weakness to a strength as well? Because I mean, believe me, I'm the same way. I'm not harping against you, but just knowing that it's one of those things where we tend to lean into our strengths and not build up our weaknesses to also become a strength, because like there's always that saying like double down or 3 times down on your strengths, and you don't need to worry about the weaknesses, just go all in. It's like, well, why not just make a weakness a strength, and now you're a lot more you have a lot more strength and ability on more fields, and now it's like you can overcome certain things because there's going to be people that are texters. Like I can't always
Yeah,
listen
agreed.
to a voice note, I can't always listen to a video, but I can read a text message and take my time and read it when I'm able to read it. So there's pros and cons to both, but it's one of those things where
I agree.
I definitely recommend doing the reading in the morning, because that honestly it feels like almost like a mental warm up before getting into problems. And also, if you start your day off in chaos, the day kind of follows that, right?
So true. So true. I do that way too often where I wake up in chaos and then all of a sudden 8 a.m. comes around. I haven't had my coffee yet. My heart rate's already up. I've already solved 3 problems and I don't know how I did it. And I already had 3 more coming. And I think that's a great point because, like, in the mornings, it's so hot in Arizona in the summers. So I'll go out and sit outside at 5, 6 a.m. and usually end up on my phone instead of just grabbing a book and reading 10 pages. So I'm going to do that. You have to hold me accountable to that, but I have plenty of books stacked up throughout this house that I can read that are just sitting with dust on them that I'll have to clean off and start reading. But that's such an easy accomplishment to get through. It's what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes of your morning of just reading
Yeah.
something before you pick the phone up.
Honestly, it sounds like a lot when you say 10 pages, but realistically, like it should be no more than 15. If you're a slow reader, 20 minutes, and you'll go on and you'll answer emails and go on social media or whatever, and you'll be at an hour before you even know it. Like that
Yeah.
10 pages makes you so much more productive, in my opinion, for the rest of my days that I've been doing it. But
I'm gonna incorporate that.
I definitely will hold you accountable. I'll send you over some books that I've read that I liked, because I've read a bunch that are supposedly good, and I just didn't really take to them. But some of the ones that I've like reread and stuff, like I'll definitely send them over to you so you can start trying those too. But one of the questions I always ask people, that when we interview them, what is, and it doesn't need to pertain to business or to baseball, it's just life in general, or it could be for any of those avenues if you want. What is the best advice or best piece of information that someone has given you in your life? And then also the flip of that, what is the worst advice or comment or suggestion that someone has given you, and how did you overcome it?
I'm about to think about the worst advice that I've had because I feel like I'm pretty good of having a one in one ear out the other. But let me think about that. But the best advice that I've ever had, there's two things that I really try to live by. One is there's no problem bigger than me. There's no problem that's so big that I can't solve it. And whether I need to delegate different things to have people help me solve that problem, my mindset is there's no problem that's bigger than that I can't solve. Just because that's just I know I can accomplish anything I put my mind to. So that's something that I really set my sights on a lot. The worst advice that I ever got.
Worst advice or worst comment or suggestion, whether it was in your career or in baseball or in life in general. And it could have been something that someone said out of like their jealousy or whatever. It's one of those things where, for example, people have told me that I should have got a normal job, and why would I franchise? Like, you can't franchise, that why would you do that? People fail. And it's like, so like something that along those lines.
Yeah, I've definitely had people that have questioned my decisions, and whether they vocalize it directly to me or not, it's there. I think the worst advice that I've gotten, it's more of a general concept of just people that are willing to accept less than they know they're capable of doing. People that are willing to just take half of a result and move on instead of really finishing the job. And something I really live my life by is if I don't do it, someone else will. So why not me? No matter what it is, whether that's taking 30 minutes to go play in my daughter's playpen with her and just be present in that moment, leave my phone off. Whether that's going to the gym, waking up a little bit earlier, it's staying up a little later and finishing those emails or analyzing the properties I need to. There's always more that you can do. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they're absolutely full of shit because they've accepted mediocrity. And if you want to be mediocre, that's fine. There's so many people in this world that live a happy, wonderful, healthy life doing that. And I have no knock on you. But for me, I'm a different breed, and I know you are too, and that's what we bond a lot over is I have a different mindset than most. And I've realized that that's my superpower in the real world that's translated from baseball to business is I have the superpower of having a mindset of I will not quit and I will not accept anything other than what I want and what I deserve. And I will get there and I will earn it. So people that love to make you feel like it was enough or you did enough or that was good enough, I don't play with that game, man. That's not my life.
No, I agree. 100% agree. And honestly, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out of, one, your day, because of you are a dad and running all these different businesses. It's one of those things where it's not always easy to find time. And I know it did take a couple of different meeting times from us to line up our schedules. So I do want to thank you so much for that. And we'll definitely have you on again in the future on, talking about more some mindset stuff as you progress down your journey. But honestly, again, thank you so much for stopping by today.
I'm happy we could do this, man. And I think what I've learned too, the entrepreneurial journey is I have to set time aside for myself. So like every Friday now, I kind of leave my schedule open and then I can do what I want. So like today I have a date scheduled with my daughter. I'm going to take her to a play place for an hour and a half just to get out of the house and disconnect. So I got a couple meetings today, a couple emails, but my Fridays, I've learned to I need to have those be my days. So I'm happy we were able to make this happen because trying to squeeze it on the Monday, Tuesday, you and I are both just running around like two chickens with our heads cut off. It doesn't happen.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you, brother.
All right, man. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon.